Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast, part of the Bet Rivers Network. And we join you on this Wednesday evening as we get you ready for what should be an exciting couple of days of golf as we get ready for the U.S. Open, which will be contested on one of the most difficult tracks in the world at Oakmont. And that has been the storyline as we get ready for the U.S. Open at the Oakmont Country Club outside Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. And there's two stories for the U.S. Open. One is the complete dominance of Scotty Scheffler and what he's been doing ever since Rory won the Masters, and how he has just taken off now and is completely dominating the sport as he has done for the last 3 years, but now even in a more overwhelming fashion as he comes up to this major after already having registered another major. He has won two Masters, and then everyone said, "Oh, let's see him win something else." Well, then he won the PGA, and he keeps winning and winning and dominating, and now he looks to see if he can do that on the U.S. Open stage. And the other storyline will be the toughness of this course, and we will get into that with our guest Michael Breed in a couple of minutes. But we're talking about a course that the players in the last couple of days in their practice rounds have said is playing as tough as any course they have ever experienced. Incredibly tough rough, incredibly fast greens, length, that has to be dealt with. A lot of approach shots that will be 200 yards, 620-yard par fives, all put it all together, and you have a situation where the course will be a very dominant story. Scheffler will be a very dominant story. And the question will be, can anybody else raise their game to play him on this stage right now? And if you look at the Bet Rivers odds as we get ready for the U.S. Open, Scheffler is 270 to 1. Okay. He is a 2-1 favorite in a golf tournament. These are Tiger Woods numbers. These are Tiger Woods numbers. That's how dominant this is right now. In the past, the favorite in a golf tournament would be 8 to 1, 10 to 1, not 2 to 1. He's 270 to 1 right now. DeChambeau is 7 to 1. Rahm, who played well at the Masters, is 12 to 1. Then Rory, who has slumped since winning the Masters, at 14 to 1. Then Oberg and Xander Schauffele, followed by Joaquin Niemann, who a lot of people like. Morikawa and Lowry at 28 to 1. Tommy Fleetwood, who still hasn't won on American shore, and Sepp Straka, who's become a very good player and a featured player of late. And then we go from there and there and there. And I see our guest right there as he gets ready to jump in here. Mons, is he ready for me, or should we wait a couple of minutes? You got to hook him up, or is he good? There he is, right there. So we get ready to welcome in from Sirius XM. You can hear him on the Golf Channel. You see him on a whole bunch of different places. You can see him just about everywhere. Wherever there's golf, you see Breed. And, he's been a guest with me for years and years. He lives this stuff daily. He's a great player. He's a great teacher. He's the whole deal. So Michael Breed joins us now. Mike, welcome. How are you?
I couldn't be better. How about you? It's good to see
you. Very good. As always, great to talk to you. And as I brought in the audience, I said, listen, the storylines are twofold here. One, the dominance of Scotty Scheffler. Two, how tough will Oakmont play? And they've been screaming about how tough this course is going to play. Let's start there. How tough will this track be for the world's greatest golfers this week?
It's going to be the hardest U.S. Open that we will have seen probably since we were here at Oakmont back in 2007 when Angel Cabrera won at, I believe he was 4 or 5 over par.
That's great. I like that kind of test. So you're talking about high rough, tough rough. You're talking about long approach shots. You're talking about greens that are over 15 on the stimp meter. You're talking about lightning quick greens.
Yeah, and also too, you've got a piece of property that is as undulating as anything you've ever seen. I mean, it makes North Shore look like,
Really?
yeah. I mean, the drop offs and the greens that run away from you, typically
Even as
greens,
bad as Augusta?
totally different. I mean,
Right.
totally different.
How so? How different than Augusta?
Well, um, believe it or not, like Augusta National, like if you think about Augusta National kind of it goes across a ridge. There's basically a high point, which is right around the first green, and
Right.
then a low point, which is down around 12 green. And there's not really a lot of up and down necessarily on that. There are some places, but it's ridges. This place, you go down to the Pennsylvania Turnpike, then you go across the Turnpike, you go up a little bit, then you go level for a little while, then you go down. There's a little bit of a wave in the middle of that front nine to the back part of the front nine, and then the same thing is true when you get to the back nine. You're kind of going downhill towards the pike, and then you're going back uphill. It's like nothing you've ever seen before. I mean, it's a spectacular design, and it's designed back in the early 1900s, like 1904, 1905, that time frame there, and it has stood the test of time for all of time.
And have they elongated it a lot since the last time the U.S. Open's been played there?
No, probably about 160 or 170 yards. Not a tremendous amount.
Okay.
But what they've done is they have the most noticeable change is they've taken out a ton of trees. I mean, you get a golf course named Oakmont, and it doesn't have any trees on it. It kind of doesn't make a lot of sense, right?
No.
And the other thing, Mike, that you're going to love is their logo is a squirrel. I am telling you right now, if you see a squirrel on property, they're dead because there's no trees.
No trees, no squirrels. But a great test of golf. And what we know is at the U.S. Open, the rough becomes a major story. And Mike, the way I've seen it depicted is, it's almost like, oh, they have to do this, they have to do that, they have to do this. Here, you got to hit it into the fairway off the tee. Great. I mean, that's common sense. Then you have to be able to negotiate and hit 200-yard approach shots onto lightning quick greens and stay away from brutal rough. That's a lot to ask. It really is.
Well, here's the thing. So there's a couple of things. One, the rough that they have it's going to be 5-inch rough, but it's not 5-inch rough that's going to be kind of laying down, so that if you hit your golf ball into the rough, if the grain is growing into you, it can get kind of lost. And if you're hitting where the grain is going down, it won't get lost. You can play out of it. This rough is literally growing straight up, and it's the hardiest rough that you're ever going to see. They actually have mowers to cut the rough. They cut it literally like a haircut. I mean, it doesn't cut it where it's laying down. The blade is the strongest blade you've ever seen. And so what happens is this ball sinks to the bottom. And in some cases, some very fortunate cases, the rough is so strong, the blade is so strong that it almost holds the rough up. I was watching Mickelson hit some shots, and he was hitting shots around the greens, and the club is just going right underneath. Now, here's one of the things that's paramount to understand. When you play the game at the highest level, you concern yourself with trajectory and spin. That's what the game is. It's trajectory and spin. How high can you hit it, and how much spin can you create? And when you miss a green in thick rough, you lose the ability to spin it. So you have to go to trajectory. Well, in order to go to trajectory, you have to open up the club face quite a bit. And at that point, this is where the club will literally go underneath the ball. And I'm not kidding you when I tell you this. It would not surprise me if we saw on a handful of occasions players trying to hit like flop shots around the green and go right underneath the golf ball.
We're going to see a massive amount of flop shots right around the green. That's going to be the way, because otherwise, how do you keep it on the green?
Well, that's the thing. Like, in order to hit that flop shot, you have to go. The ball has to be sitting down.
Right.
But the problem is if it sits down, now you've got 4.5 inches of rough that you've got to negotiate getting that club through. And so what it does is the rough then takes the club and it turns it over. And it takes all the loft out of the face. So you're going to see somebody try to hit a flop shot, and the thing's going to go way to the pull side, come out. They might not even get it on the green, like never even touch the green. It's going to be so difficult if you are off your skill sets of accuracy. You're going to have a remarkably challenging 2 days because you won't
If
be around
you're
for the other two.
if you're a big hitter, are you going to put your driver away because accuracy is going to be that important? I'd rather play from the green farther back than I'm going to worry about it. Will DeChambeau do that? Will the big hit? Will Rory do that? Well, is that the way to attack this course, or is that not the way to attack this course?
That's a wonderful question. And obviously you reflect back to the US Open that took place at Wingfoot, which is exactly what they did. The rough was really thick, but it was a different density. And it was also a September US Open, if you remember, during COVID. But what DeChambeau did was he just hammered the ball. And then he played shots close, even though he was in the rough, he was closer to the green,
Right.
and you could navigate that rough. But this is not that way. It's going to be paramount. It doesn't matter whether you hit it 330 in the rough or 230 in the rough. You're still going to hit the same shot. It's going to be a 50-yard shot coming out of the rough because you're not going to be able to advance it up to the green. And so what I would say is that the most important thing is going to be the fairway. The distance that you're going to hit it doesn't really matter. I think you're going to see more 3-woods and drivers. You're not going to see a lot of irons. You may see an iron off the tee at number 2, which is a par 4 that's 346 yards. But you're going to see a lot of 3-woods and a lot of drivers, and I think more drivers than 3-woods.
Talking with Michael Breed. You listen to him on the Golf Channel on Sirius all the time. I do. He's got a show on there that's been there forever. You see him on all different TV shows and everywhere too, with his instructional shows and everything else. And he's one of the top teachers around, and so he's one of the real voices of golf. When you look at this kind of course, which is going to be an incredible test, first of all, where are the toughest holes? Are they coming in? Are they going out? Where is the I know there's trouble everywhere, but where is the most trouble on this course?
I would say the easiest way to get after this one is where are the opportunities? So there's only probably 4 or 5 opportunities where you feel like you got a chance to make a birdie. And that would be the second hole, which is that hole that I was just talking about. It's
Right.
346 yards. There are 4 holes that are under 400 yards as par 4s.
Right.
And the 5th hole was one of those that's right around 400 yards, but you can get after it. If you can get the ball into the fairways on those 4 or 5 par 4s, you got a chance. The par 3s are absolutely brutal. You've
Impossible,
got,
right?
They're so difficult. They're 317 yards long.
Wow.
I mean, it's just nuts. It's a par 4 for most people.
And that's unbelievable. And
yeah,
is there going to be a lot of complaining about this course? I mean, are they going to come in the first day and everyone's going to be whining?
I don't think you're going to see people whining, in large part because it's Oakmont. They've had some experience there.
Right.
They understand what it's all about. But
Right.
at the same time, what they are going to do is they're going to be upset about the rough being so thick. And it does steal the skill set of players. I mean, it's literally like, just imagine going to watch a basketball game and players shooting a basketball at a basket that they can't hit.
Gotcha.
I mean, that's what it's basically going to be like. You're stealing the skill set away from these players. And so what's going to happen is, they talk about golf courses being second shot golf courses. It becomes
Right.
approach shot golf courses.
Right.
This is a first shot golf course. It's a first shot golf course because the par 3s are vital. And it's a first shot golf course because if you don't hit it in the fairway, you're not playing, you're punching out, and then you're trying to save a par from wherever you are, and who knows where you are.
All right, well, that would lead me, and before we get to talk about Scotty, but that would lead me to Rory. That would lead me to DeChambeau. That would lead me to Rahm if he's on his game. Guys who can reach everything and guys who have that kind of ability. Now, Morikawa, we know, is a great iron player. He's pretty good off the tee, but he's great with his irons. So you're going to have to be really good off the tee if you want to be on the leaderboard in this tournament, correct?
Your iron play is not going to be an advantage unless you've got your ball in the fairway.
Gotcha. You got to hit the fairways here. If you don't hit the fairways, you're dead.
And I would tell you this about Colin. I think Colin is a better driver of the golf ball. than a lot of people will give him credit for. He's second on the PGA Tour in driving accuracy. So at this point,
that's amazing. And Rye's first, right? Is in
Aaron Rye. Yep.
Yeah, he's first. And
Yep.
but we think of him as being. Now, I don't know who you think is better with their irons, Scheffler or Morikawa, but they're both brilliant with their irons. They really
Yeah,
are.
I would say
their second shot game is just unbelievable.
Statistically, Scotty Scheffler's better, but Colin is not that far behind him. What I would tell you about Scotty that separates him from everybody else, and this is what Tiger did, they have an uncanny ability to hit the ball the distance of the hole. They hit it hole high more than anybody else. If they have 182, they hit it to 182. If they have 75, they hit it to 75. And when you're that good with your distance control, your errancy left and right isn't that penal. In other words, if you're hole high and you're 12 feet to the left of the flag or 12 feet to the right of the flag, you got a 12-foot putt. But if you're hitting it 5 or 8 feet past the flag and you're 12 feet left or right, now all of a sudden you're in a 20 or 25 foot range, and that becomes very difficult to make it.
And what's the trouble with that is DeChambeau, his distance is a big problem for him. He cannot control, especially his short irons. He has a lot of trouble handling the distance of those clubs. He really does.
It's a great point that you make. And the reason why is the massive club head speed and the way he sets up his bag. He's got greater gaps between his clubs. And so where most players are playing 10 or 15-yard gaps, Bryson's playing like a 20-yard gap, 22-yard gap. And all of a sudden, what that means is that he's got much more in-between shots. That's what he has. And if he's off with his in-between, his control of the club head speed to get the ball the distance that he wants it to go, and particularly to your point with wedges, that's when things become very difficult and you hit yourself into poor positions. And at Oakmont, with the way these greens are, and there are several greens that actually release from front to back. Most of them will go like clear the water back to front. This is front to back. And when that happens for a guy like DeChambeau, all of a sudden you're going to see some lazy bogeys. And a lazy bogey to me is the ball just trickles through the green and you don't hit it to within makeable range and you make a soft bogey that way. Or you might hit it into a 60-foot putt and then 3 putt. And so I think what you're going to see is, to your point, distance control is paramount. These greens are extremely large. I mean, they are the largest greens of any golf course, including in Hawaii, which is a municipal golf course, basically. And those greens are like 8,500 square feet. These are bigger than that. They are enormous. And so what you're going to see is these golf, when the greens are running at 15 and you're on these big greens, it just allows the ball to get farther and farther and farther away from the hole. And now you're setting up 60, 70, 80-foot putts that these players have. And they don't practice that. They just don't practice that all the time.
Let's get to Scotty for a second. We're watching what he's done. It's funny. When Rory finally won at Augusta, everyone started to all of a sudden say, all right, when is Scheffler going to win another major? When is he going to win a different major? And I was like, what are you getting on Scheffler for? It was ridiculous. And all of a sudden, Scheffler said, all right, watch this. Boom, 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 boom. He has put together a run here that is nothing short of Tiger-like. You're around all the players. You're at every tournament. Explain to me the impact he is now having on the other golfers.
What's fascinating is, you and I both remember this when Tiger Woods won the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach.
Yep.
And he won with a
score in a dance. Yeah.
Right. 12 under par.
Yep.
Second place was 3 over par.
Right.
Ernie Els reflected upon that victory, thinking to himself, in order for me to have beaten Tiger, I have to find 16 shots in 4 rounds. And what that tournament did was it sent a lot of players into, I can't beat this guy. What Scotty Scheffler has done, and to your point, what he has done of late, he has won 3 times in the last 4 tournaments. He finished tied 4th in the tournament that he didn't win. He has not finished outside of the top 8 in his last 7 or 8 tournaments. I mean, you're talking about a guy that is there every single day on Sunday with a chance to win. And what he's doing and what Tiger did that year, and then also too subsequently, is separate themselves from the other players. I did not believe that there would be anybody in the modern era that could win double-digit major championships. And what I'm seeing now from Scotty, as he has separated himself from everybody else, is I would be surprised if he didn't get to 10 major championships or more.
Amazing. I agree with you. And the thing is right now, he does what the greatest do, what Nicklaus did, what Tiger did. He waits and just goes along and waits for the other players to break. And when they break, away he goes. And that's it. He's like a machine. And Jack gave him the highest compliment at his tournament by saying he plays like me. I mean, what greater compliment could anybody ever pay than having Nicklaus say, this guy plays like me?
You know, it's interesting. So you think back to the PGA Championship that he won, our last major championship that was played. And on Saturday, what he did was he took control of that tournament in the last 6 holes, and he makes that eagle at 14, and he makes the birdie at 15, and then he pars 17 and 18. And I mean, it was a phenomenal display, and he took control of that tournament. And what he did, and what Nicklaus did, was they had a way of intimidating players by not being intimidating, because they knew that these guys were going to show up and they were going to play great late. And that's one of the things that great champions do, is they play great late. And what he did on Sunday was he put an internal pressure on Jon Rahm when Jon Rahm was unable to make birdies at 14 and 15 at Quail. He knew that Scheffler behind him was going to make those birdies, and it forced John to play 16, 17, and 18
Right.
out of character.
And he came apart. Went in the water.
He
Went in the
folded.
water. Yep.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
And that's what I think what Jack was saying is, everybody knows that when the pressure gets the thickest, this guy hits the best shots. And that's what he's done. And that's what Tiger did. And that's what Scotty Scheffler is doing. He has an intimidation factor. And I heard you talking earlier when you were talking about how ungodly it is that somebody has what is he, a 2-1 favorite?
That's
and
it.
We never
usually the golf favorite's 8-1. He's now 2-1. He's got Tiger-like numbers now. They expect him to win. They're even putting out a line without Scheffler so that you can bet into that, where Scheffler is not part of the action. That is the highest compliment you can give a guy.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, it's well deserved. I mean, it's just you're surprised. Nobody's talking about a cut streak with Scotty Scheffler. They're talking about, like, he played terribly at the Players. Remember, he hurt himself, so his year got off to a kind of a crazy little start. He didn't really find his form,
right? Because of the injury. Because of the injury. But tell me this: what did you think of Scotty Scheffler when he burst on the scene? What did you think of the young Scotty Scheffler? Did you think he was going to be a good player, a great player? Well, because he was so unassuming. What did you think about Scheffler?
This is a wonderful question, and you have to go to his coach, Randy Smith. Now, one of the things that you'll notice about great players is they embrace the mundane. That's what they do. They love monotony, because monotony means consistency. It's just said a little bit of a different way. Jordan would say, you make practices hard so games are easy. This guy does the same thing over and over and over again, and he embraces incremental improvement. And so what you see from Scotty is he looks at his game and he goes, okay, I need to get better at this. And then he changes the putter. And then all of a sudden he changes his technique. And then he gets a new putting coach, because he didn't really have one. He was just using Randy. And Randy and Scotty go, okay, I think this is the best guy. And they go with him, and then he trusts them. And what you see with Scotty is he's just gotten incrementally better. But let's not forget, this is a guy who has had phenomenal success since the time he was a young teenager. You're talking 15, 16, 17 years of age. So the growth process has been phenomenal from him. But at the same time, it hasn't been like, like Sepp Straka was a good player. And then all of a sudden he just solved the thing, and then boom, he started winning. Scotty was just one step at a time, and gradual improvement. And the next thing you know, the guy's the best player in the world, and he's the best player in the world by a lot.
All right, give me the Rory won, and I understand he can celebrate because he waited 10 years to win that Masters, to complete the Grand Slam, to win another major. He was haunted by it. he's allowed a little celebration time, but everybody wanted this confrontation between Scotty and Rory, and it hasn't happened because Rory's played lousy in the last couple of weeks. What do you expect from Rory this? We know Scotty's going to be on the board, and we'll see what happens. Okay? We know he's going to be there. They'll have to beat him. What do you think from Rory this week?
So, Mike, if you look at Rory's statistics, he's one of, even though they say he's one of the best drivers of the golf ball in the game, it's simply because of his club head speed, his apex that he hits the ball, the consistency of his ability to move the ball right to left. But he only hits just over 50% of his fairways.
He just hits them real long.
I mean, if you look at, like, if you assess it, the rough as a penalty, and I've got it at about a 3/4 of a shot penalty. If you're hitting the ball into the rough half the time, you have 14 holes. If half the time you're hitting the ball into the rough, and who knows what takes place on the par threes, but if you're hitting the ball half the time into the rough on 14 of the holes, and you got 2 par fives only, all of a sudden it looks like if he plays well, he's going to shoot 75 or 76. And at that point, like, oh yeah, he might be around on the weekend, but he's not going to be on the top. He's not going to be on the first page of the leaderboard. He might not even be on the second page of the leaderboard. And so what do I expect from Rory? Honestly, I'm not kidding you. It wouldn't surprise me if he missed the cut.
Wow.
His brain isn't in the place where it should be.
That's a bold statement. That's pretty.
Let's not forget.
But you know what? You're right. It's not made. This is a tough course for him right now. It's a tough setup for him right now.
And he's also a little ornery right now. He was asked a question at his press conference about the driver that he's using. Now, let's not forget that he had that situation take place with the driver at the PGA Championship.
Right.
And so now they ask him about the driver, and he goes, look, you can look in my bag. He's not going to tell him. But it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so I just think he's a little on edge. And to that end, what I think is that, like, the big thing for Rory McIlroy right now, it's hard to even believe this, but the big thing for him is the Ryder Cup. I don't think he's sitting there thinking to himself about more major championships. He's achieved that. What he desperately wants to do is win a Ryder Cup on foreign soil. That's what his goal is.
He's going to have to win it in front of some raucous fans this year,
boy. That's exactly right. And he's going to have to find his game. That's exactly right.
Because they'll kill him in Bethpage. You know that.
Destroy him. Yeah.
Oh. They're raring to go. They're ready warming up in the bullpen here.
They're
you know
practicing.
that. You know that. You know how they are here. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
All right. Now, you are great at picking out long shots, okay? You've picked out huge long shots through the years for me. But first, give me the guys you think will play well. One guy that seems to be getting a lot of attention is Neiman this week on this course. You agree with that? Or who's your guys that you think, other than Scotty, you think are going to play well this week in this setup?
So here's what I would tell you. The first thing I start with is who's the most accurate out there, right? Aaron Rye's really accurate.
Right.
I think the length of the golf course, he doesn't really hit the ball that high.
Right.
A lot's going to depend on weather, okay? But I'm looking at a couple of different guys. I think Colin Morikawa is going to have a great tournament. He's not a long shot, but I think he's going to have a great tournament. I think Corey Connors is a guy that I've really got my eye on.
Hey, he's great tee to green. Is he going to do well around the greens, though? He's great tee to green.
That you make a wonderful point. But here's the thing about a U.S. Open. This U.S. Open, I think the winning score is going to be between 2 over and 2 under, depending upon what takes place. And when you start thinking about what you have to do to shoot low scores in a regular tournament, you got to make a lot of putts, and to that end, you got to have some great short game skills. But I don't think that you need to make a lot of birdies here. You need to make a lot of pars. And so with Corey, what you get is you get a guy who hits the ball in the fairway tremendously successfand. He's a wonderful iron player. His putting has gotten a whole lot better.
Great iron player.
He's a great iron player.
Yeah.
And he also has and this is the thing about a U.S. Open, his demeanor. You can't have anybody like, I think John Rahm is a guy who I think will implode because he's going to get a bad break. He's going to get a bad lie. He's going to hit a shot that's going to embarrass him because that's just the way the U.S. Open is. And all of a sudden, his emotions are going to get the best of him. Corey Connors isn't that guy. Colin Morikawa isn't that guy. And
what about Oberg? What about Oberg?
Oberg is a less than wedge player. and he is a less than putter.
Gotcha.
And he does not have, like, I think Ludwig Oberg's, if he wins a major, I think his major will be a PGA championship at first. Now, I think he'll develop skills as he goes through his career, and I think he's going to be a great player. But he's just not, he's not ready for this scene. He's not ready for this golf course. He's not ready for a U.S. Open. I mean, this is something that you have to have some experience at.
You like Connors, you like Morikawa. Do you think DeChambeau will play well?
No, I don't like DeChambeau. I like, I like Sepp Straka.
Really?
I think Sepp Straka,
he's been playing great golf.
He's also an extremely good iron player. He's third in strokes gained approach. He's first on the PGA Tour in greens and regulation. Now, the only way you get to that is by having he's not an aggressive mindset guy. He also has that demeanor. Again, I start with the emotions of a U.S. Open, right? Think about it. And you love Phil Mickelson.
Yep.
Phil Mickelson at Shinnecock lost his mind.
I saw the whole thing. He basically quit.
He lost his mind. He hit a moving ball.
He did. He quit.
And then tried to tell us this thing like, I know the rules. And come on. He lost his mind.
So very, very true. So this course could bring you to the same kind of situation as that. So you think that you really have got to handle, you got to have the right temperament to attack this course, and you got to keep the ball in the fairway. If you're not operating out of the fairway, you're in big trouble here, right? You did, right? You did.
Well, you're just pitching out, and all of a sudden you're trying to get it up and down from, my guess is anywhere from 160 to 170 yards, right in there, up to about 100 yards. Like, you're trying to save par from that number. And if you're doing that all day, you're just playing. You heard what Rory said. He played the other day, birdied his last 2 holes. He shot 81.
Yeah, he said he played well.
Yeah, he shot 81.
How about Lowry's game? You think it fits this course?
So I do think it can fit this golf course. And I think if the rains come in like they expect over the weekend, I think that's a good thing for Shane. Shane's one of those guys that hits the ball a little bit lower. That's why he's won an Open championship. And when you start getting this ball to get on the ground and stay on the ground for a little while, these fairways move. You almost got to read the fairways like you're reading a green. They're not flat. It's not like Bethpage where you hit the ball on the fairway and it stays in the fairway. These things curve. And so if your ball is on the ground for an extended period of time, it'll curve out of the fairway. Will it roll into the thick rough? Depends on how active it is, how fast it is. But my expectation is, like, I think Shane will have a good week. I just don't know that he hits the ball high enough for him to be able to keep those tee shots in the fairway. They're gonna roll a bit more. They're gonna chase a bit more. And then to that end, when you start talking about approach shots into the greens, I don't necessarily know that it's favorable for him. Now, I expect him to be around there on the weekends. And again, as I said, weather is going to be a lot of it, and what kind of rain happens, and the on and offs the golf course if they do get lightning and such. I think that could be a bit of a challenge for him. I'll tell you a couple guys who I know you love the long shots.
Go ahead.
So. And I don't know where your long shot is. Let's just say the long shot is 50 to 1.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like Russell Henley a lot.
Okay. Solid player.
Very solid player. He's won
60
before.
to 1. 60 to 1. Bet Rivers 60 to 1. We're talking about Michael Breed. 60 to 1 Henley.
Yeah. I like him a great deal. Another guy who I like, and this is a longer shot.
Breed picked Willett at 66 to 1 to win a tournament. So he's picked some bombs before. So Henley at 60 to 1. Go ahead. Who else?
Justin Rose. He's won a U.S. Open.
Interesting.
He's playing really nicely.
Yep.
He drives the ball incredibly straight. He's got a lot of experience.
Right.
And this golf course, although it's a big golf course, it will not be about clubhead speed. It's going to be about premium of accuracy off the tee. And I really like where he is. So I'm kind of going down that path. Okay?
Does anybody have an advantage with their game now that Mickelson is no longer a factor? and would be the guy who we'd be looking at from that standpoint. Is there anybody around the green who you think will be better than everybody else at handling that rough and being able to get that ball out and onto the greens here?
I think it's a roll of the dice. I
Okay.
think what happens around the greens is a roll of the dice. And I think you're going to be, I mean, you're going to have to get really, really lucky to be able to control the trajectory of the shot, because you're not going to be able to have any spin on your shot. So it's not like you're going to hit a shot and plan for it to grab. And when you start having to throw this thing up into the air, it's a roll of the dice. No, I don't think that favors anybody. But I'm going to tell you another guy who I really like. Okay. Now, this is the longest of long shots. Okay. Brian Harmon. Brian Harmon.
Wow.
Yeah. Don't
Really?
look past this guy.
Is
This
he
guy,
long enough to get the job done, though?
he does. This is not about that kind of distance, but what
Okay.
this guy has, he's got grit.
Yes.
This guy is a gritty guy, and he
can
will
make
never
long
quit.
putts too.
And he's a great putter.
Yes.
And he drives it pretty straight, and his iron plays really good. Don't look past Brian Harmon. Those are my long shots for you. I was prepared for that because I know
he's a bomb. I mean,
he is a bomb.
He's got to be 150 to 1. I bet you at least. We'll look him up, but he's got to be 150 to 1.
I got him over 200.
I probably is. I mean,
I got him over 200.
And he's a good player. I mean, he is a very good player. He
well,
really
that also speaks to this, that the people that are laying the odds are saying, look, this is a golf course that's just going to take, there's probably 7 or 8 of the top echelon players that have a chance. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I don't know that would be the way.
Does it fit Justin Thomas's game or no?
He's just a little errant off the tee. And I'm telling you, what happens to Justin also too is he's a little fragile.
Yeah, he'll lose it. He'll lose it. Yes.
He's a little fragile.
Which he has before. Hey, explain this to me. This course has always been a very tough course, right?
Yep.
How did Johnny Miller in 1973 shoot a 63 to win this tournament on Father's Day? How did he shoot a 63 on this golf course? Johnny will tell you. And I've asked Johnny that. And Johnny used to love to come on our show when it was Mike and Amir. He liked us. So he came on a lot. And he spoke his mind. But Johnny Miller went out and had one of the great rounds of all time to win the 73 U.S. Open at Oakmont with a 63 closing performance. How did he do that?
So back in the early 70s, you're talking about 70, 71, 72, 73, that time frame, right? He was, without a question, the best iron player on the PGA Tour. It wasn't even close. And when I was working at Augusta National, there was a guy that caddied down there named Mark Eubanks, and Mark would caddy for Johnny in the Masters when he came there. And he said, when Johnny Miller got, like, when he had his iron game on, he literally would hit it at flags and the ball wouldn't move. He called it a weaver, where you had to weave to the left or the right to see the ball because it was coming right down the flag stick. So how did he do it? When Johnny Miller was on, he was the most accurate striker of a golf ball on the PGA Tour. There were just inconsistencies. Wow. And on that Sunday, he drove it perfectly and he ironed it like nobody else. And he developed a little bit of the yips with the putter.
Yes, he did.
But in that
made 9 birdies that day. 9 birdies.
I mean, unheard of. And he didn't make 9 birdies by making 60-foot putts and 30-foot. He was hitting it in from 8, 10 feet. I mean, everything was just tracking the flag. It was unbelievable.
It's one of those great perform. You get a guy, and Miller was a really great. Listen, he wasn't Jack Nicklaus, but he was a great player. I mean, let's be honest, he was a great player. He was a champion. He was a great player. But that is a day for the ages. Everyone always points to that round, and I'm sure this week we'll see that round portrayed a lot because it was one of the great rounds of all time and one of the great sporting performances of all time to do that on a closing round to win the U.S. Open.
And I'll tell you something.
Over John Schlee, if I remember right. I think he finished second.
I'll tell you one of the great stories that not a lot of people know. There was a gentleman who was the head professional at a place called Metropolis Club up in the New York area. His name was Gene Borick. He's since passed away. Gene Borick set the course record on Friday. or Saturday, he shot 64. And that didn't last. At the U.S. Open at Oakmont, had the course record, gone 2 days later with Johnny Miller shooting
That
63.
is unbelievable.
Yeah, and that evaporated. Like, nobody knows that story.
That is unbelievable. Gone 2 days later in one of the famous rounds of all time, and it's still remembered to this day.
Yep.
And the comments, Scotty Scheffler came off the course. We're talking about Michael Breed, XM Sirius Radio with the Golf Channel, and you see him everywhere else too. He came off the course and said, "This is the hardest course I've ever played."
Yeah.
Just 2 days ago, this is the hardest course I've ever played. Scotty Scheffler. I mean, that's a heck of a comment.
The golf course itself is the hardest golf course. The setup of this golf course is the hardest setup that I've ever seen. I think this is the hardest setup that I've ever seen in a U.S. Open. And I think that.
So you think the final score will be, if you had a guess, you think it'll be over par?
I think it's going to be somewhere between 2 over and 2 under.
2 under, okay.
And I think if the guy shoots 2 under, it's going to be like DeChambeau at Winged Foot. He's going to win by 6. That's what I mean.
Or Scheffler wins by 6 or something like that, right?
That's what I think is going to happen.
Let me ask you this, Mike. What are you going to say about where he is if Scheffler goes out and wins this tournament by 3 or 4 open strokes?
I mean, you start. Look, he is at that point. He's a Hall of Famer, and he's probably going to be a Hall of Famer anyway,
without question. Without question. Yeah.
So you're going to start.
He's on his way, maybe, to being an immortal player.
Yep, I would agree with that. That's a next level player. But again, I go back to this, right? How many people have won double-digit majors? 3.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, he puts himself right in line for, like, Brooks Koepka. I don't think he's winning another major. He's sitting at 5. I doubt Jordan Spieth is going to win another major. I just don't see it.
I would agree with both those statements.
I don't think Phil Mickelson is going to win another major.
No, he's not. He's not.
So that's out. And so at that point, what we saw earlier this year at Augusta National was we saw Rory McIlroy achieve something that we've only seen 6 people achieve, and that's a career Grand Slam. And I would argue that Gene Sarazen, and I mean, I had a chance to meet him and have a meal with him. A phenomenal human being and a wonderful champion. But he won a Masters in 1935, 1 year after the Masters started. I would hardly say it was a major championship in 1935. And so at that point, what we've seen is Rory McIlroy do something that only 6 people have done. And I would say that we will see Scotty Scheffler do the exact same thing and probably, likely, in the next 3 years.
What if I give you something really crazy? What if he does it this year?
That would be incredible. But we would be talking about that, right? Obviously, we'd be talking
about one of the great performances of all time. What we would be talking about. If he turned around and won 2 more majors this year, he wins this tournament, then goes and wins the British Open. I mean, they'll be building statues to him.
And you look at what he's done, not just this year, but last year. He goes and wins this major championship. Let's not forget the wins that he had last year. Yep. And oh, by the way, the Olympics are a part of that.
He put the Olympics on the map with that performance. He now made it a coveted thing for golfers. They all want to win now because no one cared about that until he came back with that performance. Now everybody wants to win in the Olympics.
Yeah. And by the way, don't think for a second that he doesn't want to back it up. And don't think like there's not a way in the world that you're not going to go, yeah, that's going to be like, who's going to come along and eclipse Scotty Scheffler, provided he doesn't get injured? I'll tell you the one thing I worry about Scotty in Scotty's career is the length of time that Randy Smith, his only coach that he's had from a swing standpoint, a kind of guru standpoint. What happens when Randy Smith walks away from the game? What happens to Scotty at that point? And that's the one thing that's lurking in my head right now. How long is a guy? And I don't know exactly how old Randy is, but my guess is he's like 72 or 3. We saw Butch walk away.
Good point. Good,
and that's what I worry about.
And I'll give you the other point. And this came to me years ago in an interview that Dog and I did with Lee Trevino. And Lee Trevino said, let me tell you guys something. He said people didn't realize that Jack Nicklaus used to run home to watch his kids play
Yep.
games during the tournaments. He cared more about being a father than he did being a golfer. He said if Jack Nicklaus hadn't been a family man, we would have never, ever beaten him.
Yep.
Ever. You wonder if Scotty, who is such a family man, when his boys or his family, he's got one now, he might have 3 or 4, who knows, when they start playing sports, that might take his eye off the ball because he's such a he's religious, he's a family man. That might take away his hunger, but that's still years away because he's got a 1-year-old right now and no other children. But that could be something that could grab him in the next decade.
I totally agree with that. I would say there's one little difference between Scotty now and Jack then, and the difference is that back then they weren't playing for the money that they played for, and so Jack was really doing a lot of playing while he was obviously doing what he was doing with not just his kids, but all the other things that were going on. He spread himself very thin.
Right.
Golf course design. He got into golf club design.
He had to work harder to make the money.
Absolutely. And so I think there was a little bit of a difference there. Scotty made $70 million last year.
Without trying.
Well,
Turning down endorsements.
Turning
down endorsements.
Yeah.
He made $70 million. And you imagine what he would have gotten from Liv.
Oh my gosh.
He could have gotten $500 million if he wanted to.
Easily. I'm thinking Juan Soto kind of money.
Yes, absolutely. And he turned it down. Never considered it.
Yeah.
Which is why those guys love him. Never considered it. Listen, great job. And Harmon on Bet Rivers, Mons looked it up, 150 to 1.
There you go.
So there's your bomb shot. Brian Harmon at 150 to 1. Listen to Breed. He has a great show in the morning. He's been there for years and years. When I'm in the car at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm there with him every step of the way on Sirius, on the Golf Channel. He does a great job. You see him everywhere. He's one of the great golf voices. Thanks very much. Enjoy the weekend. Thanks for coming on.
And as well to you, and my best to your family, my friend.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Michael Breed. And there you go with Brian Harmon and the other long shots, Connors, Sepp Straka, and of course, so let me run it down quickly for you. Here we go. We know how tough this course is going to be. And you really want to watch it because you don't see too many courses where these guys are brought to their knees by the elements and by the courses. Very few times are they struggling with par. Even when they're winning big tournaments, they're playing them way under par. They're not playing this course way under par. That's all there is to it, okay? Now, Scheffler is an amazing 2 to 1, 270 to 1. DeChambeau 7. Rahm 12. He told you he didn't like Rory at all. He's 14. He told you he didn't like Oberg. He's 22. He likes Straka. He's 33. He likes Corey Connors. He's 50. He likes Brian Harmon. He likes Henley. He's 60 to 1. He likes Brian Harmon is 150 to 1. Check those out. Okay. And we'll be with you throughout the tournament to bring you up to date. So as far as, you know what? I don't have someone that I'm really locked in on this week other than Scheffler. I honestly think Scheffler is going to win. I wouldn't bet on him at 2 to 1, but I think he's so hot right now, he's going to win. Now, I would look at a couple of those long shots. Again, Harmon 150, Henley 60. Connors, I like Corey Connors' game. If he putts, he's right there. His tee to green game, he's going to be in the fairway. He is going to be on the green. He is a great iron player. So is Morikawa. But Morikawa, you know he's going to be there. He's one of the best players in the world. I would look at those guys, those long shots he gave you, because I think this course is so tough. It is really hard to pinpoint a guy that you're going to think is going to play really well on it. Although I'll be fascinated with Scotty. And I think right now, Scotty's hitting fairways. He's hitting greens. And if he does that, he's going to be right there. Enjoy the tournament. And again, check out. And how could you not throw a couple of bucks on Brian Harmon when you're getting 150 to 1? You can play him in the top 5. You could play him in the top 10. You could play him in the top 20. I guarantee you he's 10-1 in the top 20. To finish in the top 20, he's 10-1. Check that out. Or play him in the top 10, he's probably 15-1. Those are great numbers. And 150-1 to win it all. Thanks to Mike Breed. We'll see you later.